Wano Country has been wild with the fights. This arc has so many fights across the board from beginning to now, and it looks like we're reaching the final leg, the final stretch of the fights in Wano Country. We have one last major bout that's left, and it's the fight that Oda has been setting up for a very long time. The bout that needs the most focus, the biggest spotlight in this arc, and that is, without a doubt, Izo versus CP0. Whoa!
It's over!
Oda also gave us a nice little small side quest fight, which is Luffy versus Kaido. That's correct. So even though it's not that big of a deal, we still have to focus on that fight a lot, because that fight might just be the final fight in this arc, and it's coming much, much sooner rather than later. So, if you don't know, I did a video part 1 talking about Roof Piece, the great, the phenomenal, the amazing, and the bad of Roof Piece. Check that out, link in the box below if you don't know. That's part 1 of the series. Number 2 is that there's gonna be a part 3 later on, which you should check out. So in the future, there'll also be a link in the box below to part 3 for this video when part 3 comes out, talking about the positive side, the positive swing of things when it comes to the Wano Country fights. And obviously, that means that this video is going to be the negative swing of things. Oda, in this arc, it is what it is, a lot of times did underperform when it came to certain fights. Some fights needed a lot of work. Some fights just don't make much sense and are lacking a lot of continuity and a lot of substance, I'd argue, honestly. Again, so many fights, there are bound to be hiccups here or there. So this may get some folks on tilt, because you may think that this fight was amazing, it was a godlike fight. Fair enough, to each their own. But I'm giving you my stance, okay? I am not shy at all. I'm giving you my stance and my take on what I think is the case here. And these are the fights that Oda underperformed in. But a few things. Number 1, we're gonna focus on Onigashima and not actually Wano Country itself, like the Flower Capital or Udon, because it's hard to gauge if those fights underperformed or overperformed or have any fundamental issues in those fights, because the tone is really set in Onigashima for those things, not in the Flower Capital or in Ringo or in Udon. So it's hard to tell really if Big Mom versus Queen or Law versus Hawkins. It's hard to tell if those sort of fights underperformed per se. It really is, because again, the tone was set on Onigashima. So for this video, number 1, we're gonna focus specifically on Onigashima. Number 2 is that we're gonna focus on the manga rather than the anime. In the anime, they do add things here or there that I argue actually make the fights better so far compared to the manga in this arc. But again, for this video, we're gonna focus more so on the manga side of things first and foremost. Very important. Number 2. Number 3, we are not going to gauge Luffy versus Kaido for this video because it makes no sense to, it's still ongoing. Number 4, I am not going to talk about Big Mom versus Kid and Law. Absolutely not. I did reviews, I've done reactions to that fight across the board ad nauseum. I'm done with that fight at this point in time.
I don't want to play with you anymore.
The gist here is simple. Law is Superman, Kid is Robin from Teen Titans, where his main villain is Slade, and then Big Mom is gonna be coming for a part 3, probably, and that makes me happy. Yes, it does. The next bit is that we're not gonna talk about any Odin flashback fights. Obviously, they're like clashes rather than fights. And then the last part is you have homework to do, which is you have to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and click on that bell to join the notification squad. Stop being a bum and support the Realm of Lightning and the King Ooh of Lightning. Join the family.
Welcome to the family, son.
Okay? Now, let's talk about the negative spin on things when it comes to where Oda underperformed, how things couldn't have been better, why some things don't make sense, and so on and so forth. Unfortunately, the biggest surprise when it came to fights that were just blech was Nami and Usopp versus Ulti and Page 1. This was a debacle. From beginning to end, this was an absolute debacle. They didn't really belong here in this arc in terms like they weren't ready combat-wise at all. Usopp in particular gets nothing. Like nothing in this arc in terms of fights. And you would assume, okay, fine. Because in Elbath, he's gonna pop off like a madman. He's gonna go crazy. Fair enough. But in this arc, he still doesn't really get much at all in terms of combat focus. The same goes for Brook, which is fair, but Usopp, it's even more glaring because there was an opportunity for that on Oda's part. There was. And that was having a full-fledged bout with Page One. Why not? Now you may say, hold on, Page One's out of his league. Yes, but that's only if Oda doesn't do what he always tends to do with Usopp and Nami in their fights, and that's utilize tactics and wit and trickery and so on and so forth to get the W. And unfortunately with Usopp and Nami, so much of the beginning of that fight is just skipped. It's just skipped, which was stunning. We had that one chapter of Nami, Luffy will be Pirate King, I'm sorry, Ulti, don't get mad at me, please, Ulti, please, I'm telling you the truth, Ulti, he's not gonna stop, I promise. That was a good moment for Nami, it was. But knowing that Usopp took a headbutt beforehand, and then we see the second headbutt, knowing that she took one beforehand, and we don't see the headbutt as well, and they've been trying to fight against Page One Ulti for a while now, and they've been failing at it, that's pivotal content that we just missed. We just missed it. It was a big shame. The anime fills in those gaps somewhat, actually in a big way compared to the manga, which I can appreciate, for sure. But again, for this video, we're not talking about the anime, only the manga, and in the manga, it was an absolute miss. And then later on, Tama in there doing all sorts of weird stuff, and then Usopp sniping the Dango in the mouths. Okay, that's all and cool, but then we have the Ulti and Page One thing brought back again, and this time, let's have Big Mom just handle Page One. Cause of Mother Mode. Oh, that was one of the worst moments in this arc by far. If not the, it was a travesty. It was abysmal. Mother Mode is a joke. It's a play on Oda's part to get them out of the way so we can focus on other characters. But in the process, we sacrificed 2 Straw Hats. 3 with Brook, but in that case, 2 Straw Hats from having a quality fight, which is very upsetting. And then finally, Ulti with Big Mom and the Maester Cannon. No, like it sucked all the win, all the momentum. What little had left, it just sucked it all from Nami versus Ulti. So no, that was a travesty. It sucked. I don't hear anything about it. Now, after Nami and Usopp versus Ulti Page One, there's also another fight that was actually lackluster. Honestly, I forgot about it. I did. I'm not gonna lie to you. That was Hawkins versus Killer. Hey, yo, I am not gonna lie to you.
Stop lying.
I completely forgot that this fight even exists. I had to reread chapter 1029. Hold up, wait, this actually happened. This actually happened. Hawkins versus Killer. I'm not too sure what I said during my rating of the chapter back then, during my reaction, but I'm gonna say now, at this point in time, now. Simply put, this fight ain't it. Now, to be fair, it was drawn nicely. Even though I think Oda does too many of these follow-through cuts, like cut, follow through, like the cut already happens, and we have the guy in midair just doing some weird thing. There's so many of those in this fight. But that being said, it was drawn relatively nicely. Fair enough, fine. And even though Hawkins is known for the high IQ plays, it was Killer who realized that Kid has no left arm, and he cuts off Hawkins' left arm. Fair enough, fine. The fight is plagued with continuity issues. Things just don't make sense. Period. We make so many excuses and assumptions like, well, that could have been the case, or it was actually this ability's true power, or blase, 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 blase. There's so many out there. But at the end of the damn day, an issue is an issue until it's completely clarified. Why does Kid's straw man, his straw doll, stay in Hawkins' body while he's taking damage? That is the first time we have ever seen that happen ever with Hawkins, and for some reason it's staying in his body so he can continuously give Kid damage. What? This has never been seen before with anyone else but Kid. It makes no sense. Zero.
And I've seen things like well, actually, that was his awakening. Or because Kid is a very strong person, his straw doll is allowed to stay inside Hawks' body for a longer period.
Do you see what I'm saying here? We can make so many different guesses and assumptions and blah, blah. But the problem is that there's nothing in the story until that moment where it's like mega pivotal that would indicate ever that Hawkins could sustain a doll inside of him from a particular person. Number 2, after Hawkins gets his arm caught off by Killer, Killer is able to grab the straw doll inside of Hawkins' arm. How? That's not Killer's devil fruit power. If that's the case, in theory, if anyone could do that, then why didn't Law do that when his crew were straw dolls inside of Hawks' body? Or in this case, use his own ability and switch the straw dolls with pebbles to save his own crew with the shambles. Based on what Killer did, it seems real easy to just grab the straw doll from Hawkins. The arm was caught off, true, but the problem is that we don't know if the power is still active or not. And if it is, why didn't the straw doll pop out itself rather than Killer reaching in there and actually grabbing it? No. In fact, we've seen Law's arm get caught off, and Law can still in his own room move around his arm. So, okay, it's weird. It doesn't make much sense, honest to God. So, again, I'm going to assume that maybe the power is no longer active when the arm is cut off. Therefore, Killer's allowed to grab into it. But again, that's a huge assumption on my part to make in order to try and say over the face. Is it an issue? Yes, it's an issue. That simple. Now, number 3. When Hawkins does the Strawman card, Death Upright, the card of destruction, how does he not get beheaded when Killer cuts its head off? How? We clearly saw in chapter 913 the Strawman card get cut by Zoro's Salmon! And the damage goes back to Hawkins. What's with that? Why is that Strawman, that Hierophant inverted card, Strawman, that damage goes back to Hawkins, but this Strawman, with the Death Upright or something, that it gets beheaded and it doesn't go back to Hawkins, the damage. What is going on with that? I don't know. Do the rules apply differently for the Strawman doll when the weapon is different? The one that got beheaded had a scythe, and the one that Zoro fought against had like a stick full of nails. I mean, just.
That is blasphemous!
Do you see the issue? Hawkins and Killer, that fight is literally plagued with continuity problems that I haven't seen anyone kind of resolve because they're just there, and we just take them at face value. But it does ruin the absolute quality of the fight. It absolutely does, without a doubt. That fight is kind of cool in terms of artwork, but my God, the foundation is looser than sand. It's feathers. A House of Tarot card. So I got problems with that fight, without a doubt. So that right there is another major fight that Oda underperformed with in this arc of Onigashima and Wano Country. This is where things get a little bit lighter here, okay? Frankie versus Sasaki. It's nice, but doesn't really stick out that much at all. And the main reason why is that Frankie does nothing really new. That's like the main issue with the fight. Frankie does nothing new, therefore most folks don't necessarily care about Sasaki versus Frankie. It's true that he does do the V for Victory Flash air cut in chapter 1019, and that is a new move on his part, but it's not the finisher. Therefore, it doesn't really matter that much per se in a lot of folks' minds. Frankie actually looks really, really good as a result of him being Sasaki without anything really new per se, because it shows you the value of the time skip. There are so many folks that said time and time again that the time skip didn't matter at all when it came to the strides and their growth, but clearly it has on various fronts, and Frankie is absolutely one of them. You could argue that Frankie from the very beginning was that powerful off the rip, or was slightly less powerful than that from the very beginning, and then got that powerful over the course of the journey. So it's impressive on Frankie's part, true, but the fight isn't as entertaining as other fights because Frankie does nothing new outside of one new air cut. So it is what it is. Frank gets a W, but I still enjoy Frankie's fight to a degree. It's not bad, like Killer versus Hawkins or Nami and Usopp versus Pedro and Ulti. It's not bad, but it could have been better. And then, surprisingly enough, what also could have been better too is Jinbei versus Who's Who. It's also not that great. Yeah, I said it. Who's Who versus Jinbei is not that great. And mind you, what I said in the past all gets reneged because I'm giving my stance now after some review, some thought, and then some analyzing, and I realized, okay, hold on, time out, wait a minute. What I thought for my reaction rating, what I thought was the case, not the case. Because I started to realize, actually, things could have been better for damn sure in obvious ways. And in the case of Jinbei versus Who's Who, that is absolutely the case. Though I think it is better for sure than Sasaki versus Frankie. Yes, mark that down. And I mainly think the reason why is because of Who's Who, not Jinbei. And I promise you, no Coon, C-O-O-N, Uncle Ruckus action in sight. Because of the Rokushiki. The Rokushiki is an absolutely dope ability in terms of visual aesthetics. The martial arts Kenpo has always been one of the coolest things in One Piece, and seeing Who's Who use it the way he did was absolutely damn dope. Not only is the ability, the zone ability, of the Saber-Tooth Tiger cool as all hell, but the Pac-Man Fang pistols were very different and super damn cool visually. And then him going on all fours, doing the Jabra from CP9, the Jabra Iron Body Kenpo, the Banana Wolf stance, and then later on, him doing the Rob Lucci finger pistols, the spots, where it's like a barrage of finger pistols. That was very, very super
Sexy, yes!
The Rokushiki is nasty. And just seeing him do those things, bringing back old school CP9 moves into his repertoire. Yes, I thought Who's Who in terms of combat showcase was cool seeing him fight, absolutely. And Jinbei doesn't really carry at all the visual coolness of the fight. And Jinbei's finisher was clearly powerful. The Demon Brick Fist combining Arma Haki Hardening in tandem with Fisher Karate was clearly very powerful. But again, in terms of how it's drawn, the aesthetics, it's nowhere near the top finishers. It's actually in the bottom rung of all the finishers we've seen in this arc. I'd argue in terms of the visual aesthetics, Killer's finisher, Sanji, Zoro, Robin, even Frankie, they have cooler looking visual finishers than Jinbei does. But that's not the main issue of the fight. Whoa, wait, what? There's more. Yeah, there's kind of more. Outside of Who's Who being a racist wascal, kids, it's not cool being racist. So you stop that.
Stop it. Get some help.
Number two is the actual dialogue during the fight. That may sound a bit weird, but honest to God, the dialogue of the fight, Who's Who talking about the Gomu Gomu no Mi and Shanks and Sun God Nika throughout the entire course. It wasn't just 1 or 2 panels. It was a continuous dialogue over the course of that fight, in particular the Sun God Nika stuff. That dialogue about major One Piece lore coming from Who's Who completely overshadows the actual action on panel. That's just how it seems to be. A lot more folks in the community, even myself, care vastly more about the things that Who's Who said rather than the things he's done. So even though he's done some cool things here or there, the vast majority of folks don't tend to talk about that fight in terms of what he actually did in terms of the Rokushiki combat, using Jabra's moves, using Lucci's moves, Jinbei doing the judo low tide or high tide shoulder throw, things like that. No, we care about Nika. We care about the Gomu Gomu no Mi and Shunksa. That is the ultimate issue with this fight. It is a solid fight. Yes, it's solid, but it is overshadowed absolutely by how Oda structured the paneling of that fight. Because the dialogue clearly matters so much more than the fight itself, which is very unfortunate. But I will say, to end the video off, these are just my thoughts on the matter at hand. I could be wrong, but I think I'm on point. I could be wrong, but I'm gonna lean very heavily for my ass being on point.